Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. Today I'm sharing my 10 cards from one kit using the Love From Lizi November 2018 card kit. This is a beautiful winter foresty themed kit. I love the real soft blues and greens in the kit. Now along with the kit, I am using some of the specialty cardstock that you can purchase as one of the add-ons. So for card number 1, I'm using a sketch from Mojo Monday. This is number 501. And just to save on time, I've already cut out all of the pieces to the measurements I have posted on the sketch. So for that larger circle element of the sketch, I used one of the felt snowflakes, and I just put some liquid glue on the back, and then I'm using my tape gun to kind of hold it down in place just for that little extra weight. And for the sentiment on my card, I used one of these acetate words. This one says joy. And I do want to point out there is a protective plastic covering over these acetate letters, so you want to make sure to peel that off. That way you can get the really pretty shiny look of the word. So to adhere the sentiment, since the snowflake has some dimension to it, I'm going to have the word just partly over it, and then I'm putting just a little bit of liquid glue underneath the part that's going to go onto the snowflake, and then the other parts I just cut some really thin foam dimension and put it behind where the silver is so you can't see it from the front. And then just a finishing touch, I'm going to add a few of the Nuvo drops. This is the Wedgwood blue that comes in the kit. And then I wanted to add just a little bit more interest to the snowflake. So I'm using some of the white Nuvo drops that came in, I believe it was the July kit. I'm just kind of putting it all around on all those little circle spots of the snowflake. So that is card number 1. For my next card, I'm using Sweet Sunday sketch number 225. Now sometimes I don't follow sketches exactly, they're just more of a little inspiration for me, so my end result doesn't look anything like this sketch. For the papers, the green paper is some of the 6x6 pattern paper, and then this top paper is some of the specialty paper. It's the Frosted Pebbles embossed, it's a pearlescent paper. So it's really pretty. I love the texture on this. And then in the middle, I went and added this burlap ribbon. And I wanted to use 2 of the wood veneer trees, but I wanted to add some color to them. So I used some of the gold shimmer spray and just spritzed that all over the trees. And I'm just adding more until I feel like I have enough shine on there. So now while I let the trees dry, I'm going to add some more to this card. So I have a piece of the ribbon. This is like a peach ribbon, real skinny, and I'm just going to add it to the center of that burlap ribbon. And yes, you might notice I use a lot of adhesive on my cards. I just really want to make sure that they stay together. So I did add some of the craft paper for that circle matting around the Noel, and now that the trees are all dry, I'm just trying to figure out placement. I know I want to put them all in a row, and I'm just going up and down trying to figure out how they look best. So I did add some dimensional tape to the back of the Noel, and I'm still kind of fussing with placement. But then once I decided where to put them, I just put some adhesive on the back of the trees. And I used the Ranger Multimedia mat to hold those in place. And then I punched a few little tiny circles using the glitter paper. And then of course needed a few of the beautiful peel-offs that come in the kit, and just added 2 of them to the bottom of the card. And of course I can't waste any of the scraps of the peel-offs. You never know when you just need a little piece. So now I'm just going to adhere those glitter circles to the bottom of the card. And now you can see my finished card. It doesn't look anything like the card sketch. So that is card number 2. For card number 3, I'm using MFT sketch number 352. For the main image of the card, I used a piece of the 6x6 pattern paper that had this little forest animal scene on the bottom of it. So I just cut part of it off. I think there were some trees that were on the left-hand side. For the background of my card, I used a piece of the craft cardstock, and then I'm just stamping some of the small snowflakes that came in the kit using some Versamark ink, and then using some of Lizi's silver dollar embossing powder. So this circle that's cut out of the center was actually from the previous card. When I realized I was going to need the circle for a matted layer, I made sure to cut it out of the center since I knew I'd be able to use it as the background. And whenever I heat emboss, I always notice that the paper curls just a little bit, so I'm going to add a little extra adhesive just to make sure that lays flat. And I did include this blue cardstock. It didn't come in the kit, but since I love to add so many layers, I always need a little extra cardstock. Now as I assemble the card, the circle that's cut out of the craft paper is no longer visible. I stamped the Hello Winter sentiment with some like a warm gray ink color. I'm just adding some dimension, and I did mat that on some of the silver mirror cardstock as a little layer. And I'll just adhere that to the card base, and then just one final touch. I'm just going to add a few more little snowflakes using a white gel pen. So that is card number 3. For my next 2 cards, I'm using MFT sketch number 399. The background papers looked very similar. They're just one's green, one's blue, and the design is slightly different. So I thought I'd do 2 cards instead. For this circle element, these are also a similar paper. They have these like 4 circle designs. So I decided to cut those out, and then I just added some cardstock to layer those. And then just to make sure I have enough cardstock, I did cut the matted circles out of the background layer. And then for this wide strip that goes down the left side of the card, on one I used the glitter cardstock, and then the other I used some of the pattern paper. And now I'm just going to go and adhere those card fronts onto a card base. And for this card I am leaving a little bit of that white border. And then I'm going to add some foam dimension and just pop those images up. I love the sweet little forest animals. So the one green card has a little deer in the center, and then the blue card has this sweet little bunny. And so for a sentiment, I used some of these punch outs that come in the kit. So one of them says Season's Greetings, and I do trim off a little bit of those little tabs since they are a punch out. And the white one with the green in the center, it just kind of got lost on the card, so I just wanted to add a little bit of cardstock to mat it. And then just to keep them all on the same level, I'm just adding a little piece of foam dimension just on the right hand side. And now I'm just going to pull out some of the lovely sequin mix that comes in the kit. And one thing that's fun about this sketch is it already shows you where you're going to add your embellishments. Sometimes it's a little unclear where you want to add a little sequins or maybe some Nuva drops. So this is fun that it already tells you exactly where to place them, and it just looks nice and balanced on the card. So those are cards number 4 and 5. For my next card, I used Sweet Sunday sketch number 234. So I just used some pattern paper for that main rectangular element, and then I'm adding just some of the peel-offs to this green cardstock just for a little extra shine. It's kind of nice. I found some cardstock that almost exactly matched the peel-off color. So for this background paper, this is some of the pearlescent textured paper. So this is really pretty. It's hard to tell on the video because the reflection, but it has this real thin wavy line going through it. And then my image is one of the circle tags that comes in the kit. I just added some of the craft cardstock to layer it. And then I'm just adhering all of that together. I'm going to put that card front onto a card base. And then for those circle elements, I use some of the little silver stars that come in the kit. So I'm just going to add some adhesive to the back of those and place those on the left-hand side. And then to cover up that little punch-out circle on the top of that tag, I just tied a little bow using some of this rose ribbon. So that is card number 6. For my next card, I'm using Mojo Monday sketch number 435. And I decided I needed to make at least one shaker card using this kit. For the background of the card, this is a matte silver cardstock. It's one of the add-on specialty cardstock kits. And I love this really soft blue. So this card is basically all silver and blue. So I used 2 different pattern papers for those 2 strips on the background. And then for the back of the shaker element, I'm going to use this lovely snowflake infinity stamp. So I'm just using my mini Misty to stamp it, just in case I don't get a very good impression. And I'm just holding it down with some washi tape because I didn't cut the square much larger than the stamp, so I need to make sure it stayed down. And I just used a gray VersaFine ink to stamp that background. And then since it was still a little bit damp, I decided to add some glitter embossing powder to the background just to make sure it didn't smudge, and it just added just a little bit of shine. It doesn't really show a whole lot here on the video. So once I have that all heat embossed, now I can go ahead and start building the shaker component. So I cut out the piece of acetate, and I did trim down that snowflake background paper just so it didn't go out further than the window of the shaker. So I went ahead and added the acetate to that window, and then I'm using a trick that I learned from Lizzie in one of her videos. For my foam dimension tape, I folded it in half first, and then I'm cutting out all of those little pieces on the side. I used to cut them separately and then try to line them up, but this is so much easier, so thank you, Lizzie, for that tip. So with any shaker card, you want to make sure that foam dimension is nice and snug so that nothing sneaks out at all. So this very last side, I did cut it just a little bit too short. I just had to cut a teeny little sliver to sneak in there. So once I have that all in place, I just dust it with a little bit of the embossing powder just so it's not so staticky. And then I'm adding just a little bit of the sequin mix on the inside. And then I'll add that snowflake background just over to seal it all up. And then I'm going to add that to the card. I cut out an oval out of the white cardstock, and I'm just going to use the Let It Snow sentiment using some more of this VersaFine ink. And then for a matted layer, I'm using some of the glitter cardstock, and I just used a scalloped oval die for that. And then I'll adhere that all together. And I noticed for the glitter paper, it helps to use liquid glue to hold it together. The ATG doesn't seem to, the tape doesn't hold as well. So then I'm just going to add a few of the small silver sequins that are in the kit just onto that upper right hand corner of the card. And then just one final touch, I'm going to use some of the Nuvo drops, and I'm just adding it to all those little small snowflakes that are around the sentiment, just to add a little more color to it. And that is card number 7. So now we are on to card number 8. So I'm using sketch number 230 from Sweet Sunday. The background of this card is using some more of that specialty embossed pebbled paper. So I really love this paper. It has a real soft feel to it. I think because it's embossed, so it kind of changes the thickness of the paper. And then I just used a small piece of this blue pattern paper for that background, and then another piece of that pearlescent textured paper for kind of the sentiment box of the card. For the star embellishment of this sketch, I used this lovely star die that comes in the kit, and I used some of the silver mirror paper. Then I used the sticker sheet that comes in the kit and used a couple of the little blue forest creatures just to match the rest of the blue on the card. And I'm just using some liquid adhesive to glue this really lovely star die cut down. And then I thought that upper corner just needed a little something, so I used just a couple little scraps of the glitter cardstock and then the silver mirror cardstock, and just cut them into some little banners. I cut one of the little banners longer than the other, and then I just sort of layered them on top and put them in that upper right hand corner. And then I decided to use some of the Nuvo drops for those little circle elements, and then added just a few more tiny ones in that lower corner. And that is card number 8. For card number 9, I didn't use any card sketch. I pulled out a couple of the tags included in the kit, and I cut this silver one. I just cut the end of it off so it went across the bottom of this white tag. And then I'm adding just a little peel off on the top and bottom of that silver paper. And then the background paper is this really lovely green mirror paper. It's one of the specialty add-on paper packs. And I decided to add just a little more interest to that background paper by adding a few of the peel offs to the upper corner and the lower corner. And yep, you can see my reflection. This stuff is so shiny. It's really pretty. So I just cut these small pieces to go on the corners, and then I'm just tucking the ends around the back of the paper. So this is where keeping all those little tiny pieces are very useful. You just never know when they'll come in handy. So once I have all of those in place, I'm just going to add some adhesive to the back of that card front and adhere it onto my card base. And then I was trying to figure out what I want to put on this tag. I was thinking the green with the green would look really lovely, but I didn't like the look of it. So instead I pulled out this little white deer. Then I was just trying some of the other stickers, seeing if I liked the look, and I decided against it. So then I pulled one of these sentiments from the punch outs and just trimmed off those extra little tabs. I'm just adding some foam dimension to the back of this large tag. And it's nice because it'll cover up all of the little ends of the peel off, so those aren't going to move anywhere at all. And I'm just going to adhere that to my card. And then I'm just adding some liquid adhesive to put that sentiment on the lower part of the tag. Then I pulled out some glitter Nuvo drops and just added a few random drops, just to like one in the upper corner and lower corner, and a few of them just below the sentiment on the tag. And then after I finished this card, I did end up adding just a few sequins onto the tag. So that is card number 9. So now we're on to card number 10. So I cut out these little snow hills using some of this Pebbles embossed pearlescent paper. And now I'm going to use this snowfall stencil that comes in the kit. But I only need to use it on the upper part of the card, so I just used a scrap piece of cardstock on the lower part to cover that up. I'm using some white ink and a distress tool just to get all of the little snowflakes in there. And now I'm going to add some more of this glittery embossing powder. Since the ink is a pigment ink, it definitely stays wet much longer. So with the embossing powder, it's going to finish that off so it's not going to smudge, and then just add a really subtle glittery shine look to it. So after I get that all heat embossed, I'm going to go ahead and add those little snowdrift hills onto the card. And I just got two different colors. So the background is a frozen color, and this was part of the specialty kit. And then the other is the frosted. And then since it was embossed, it did curl a little bit, so I did use a lot of adhesive again just to make sure it stayed nice and flat on my card base. And then I pulled out one of the felt creatures. So this is the little blue fox, and then I added the little tree in the background to kind of make a little scene. And I'm just using some liquid glue to adhere that fox down. And just to hold it down, I put my tape gun on top again just to keep it in place. And then I'm using one of the little punch out sentiments, and I did trim off part of the one side just to make sure it would fit on there nicely. And then just one finishing touch, I used just two of the thinner peel offs and just put them on the very bottom of the card. And this probably would have been easier because I could have cut them a little more accurately if I put them on first, but sometimes I decide to do this at the last minute. So that is card number 10. So I decided to do two more cards. I really wanted to figure out a way to use this large image that's on the 6x6 paper. So I used a large circle dies and cut those out along with some matted layers. And I could have made these as like a large 6x6 card, but I wanted to fit them onto an A2 card. So I'm using some craft cardstock in the background, and then I trimmed off the lower part of the circle on each of these. I kind of cut part of the scene. And then I pulled out some of the specialty cardstock and just cut this really slight little hill, this little stitched hill to go on the bottom. I kind of think the cards have a look of sort of a snow globe. So now before I add anything else, I'm going to put those card fronts onto a card base. And I did decide to add one of the peel-offs just to the bottom of this green mirror paper. I think those peel-offs look really lovely with this color. And then I'll go ahead and put that card front onto a card base. And I pulled out one of these little banner sentiments. This is one of the little punch outs. I'm just adding some foam dimension, and I'm putting that onto the green card. And the similar banner that was in blue, I didn't think it had enough contrast to go onto the blue card. So I'm just using some of the sequins and adding a few to the upper right hand corner and then a couple in the lower left hand corner. Then I'll do the same on the blue card. And I really like how it's a very simple card, but it just has this beautiful little image with the little forest creatures in the center there. So I felt like the blue card still needed some kind of banner in the corner, so I just pulled out a scrap of this peach cardstock and cut a little banner to add into the upper corner. So those are cards number 11 and 12. So here is a quick recap of the 12 cards I made using Love From Lizi's November 2018 card kit. Let me know which card is your favorite. So let me show you everything that is left from the kit. I just have one small piece of the craft cardstock. Still a little bit more of the specialty cardstock. I didn't use the vellum at all. And then the pattern paper, I have a lot of scraps. And then these partially cut out pieces. And then 1, 2, 3, 4 full sheets. I still have quite a few of the punch out tags, and then most of the stickers. I only used 4 of those. And I still have 5 of these acetate words. And 4 pieces of the felt, 2 of the animals, and 2 of the snowflakes. I have 3 of the round tags. And then 4 more of the other tags, 1 white, 2 craft, and 1 of the glitter. I still have quite a few of the sequin mix left. The whole roll of washi tape, I didn't use that at all. 2 of the wood veneer trees. All of the jingle bells. 2 of the stars, and then quite a bit of the ribbon I still have left over. Some of them I never even used. Lots of the apple green mirror peel-offs, the Nuvo drops, then of course the dies, the stamp set, the stencil, and then from the specialty cardstock, I still have a lot of it left over. So I have partials of quite a few of the pieces, and then still 3 of this textured pearlescent paper, the full sheet of the silver glitter, and then 1 more of this pebbled embossed pearlescent paper. If you are interested in purchasing the Love From Lizi November 2018 card kit, I have provided a link in the description. The monthly kits do sell out quickly, so don't delay if you really want to buy one. If you enjoyed my video, please subscribe, and don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.